Hello YouTube and welcome to the nation of free to play. I'm Mr. Mondstadt and today I will talk about the banner lineup for the upcoming version 5.6. I will cover the new units kits, playstyles and values for your F2P account, so make sure to stick around till the end. In the first half of version 5.6 we will get a new 5-star from Fontaine, Escoffier, as well as Navia's second rerun. Also, our favorite vet and bro IFA will be released as a new 4-star character. Let's start with Escoffier first though. She is a 5-star cryo polearm who will work as a healer / sub DPS for your team. Escoffier's normal attacks are rather unspectacular as she will strike enemies with her lance. However, she is not meant to be played as an on-field damage dealer, so we can skip that part about her kit. Her elemental skill is more important, as it will be the core damage part of her kit. If you tap her E, Escoffier will summon her cooking mech, which will follow your active character and deal cryo damage to opponents. Also, her damage is Usia aligned, which can be useful to know for certain shields or puzzles. Her cryo application is therefore not burst reliant, and this way not only will she deal damage from off field, kinda like Farina, but she will also continuously apply cryo, which helps a lot when it comes to freezing enemies. But we'll get to that in a bit. You can hold her skill as well, which will activate a special cooking mode of Escoffier's mech. In this mode, the mech can absorb elemental attacks and use this energy to transform ingredients into special dishes. So kinda like a parametric transformer, but for food. In any way, this mode is not recommended for combat, so basically you want to tap her skill 99% of the time. Her elemental burst, on the other hand, is one big instance of cryo damage and will heal your entire party back up. Since Escoffier's healing will probably scale off attack, you will not have to compromise between building her for healing or damage. For her optimal damage, you probably want to run her on Golden Troop, as this set will increase her skill damage significantly. Blizzard Strayer is another option, but she might overcap on crit rate this way. If you want her only for her healing abilities, you can also give her a healing set or 2-piece with focus on attack and ER. So far her kit sounds pretty boring, kinda like a 5-star Charlotte, but the most important part is yet to come. Her passive talent is where her true value lies. If your party consists of 1, 2, 3 or 4 Hydro or Cryo units, Escoffier will shred the Hydro and Cryo resistance of opponents by a certain percentage. The more Hydro and Cryo units there are in your party, the higher the number. Hoyo did not announce the numbers just yet, but the recent rumors expect her to shred up to 55%. What? Yes, you heard that right, 55% rest shred to Cryo and Hydro from her passive if you only use Hydro or Cryo units, aka you play freeze. And with that, her whole kit comes together. Her cryo application from her skill helps you to keep enemies in place. And who is another great off-field damage dealing support? Correct, Farina. And what does Farina need? A healer. In other words, Escoffier will bring freeze, a kind of forgotten reaction, back to the meta. 55% resistance shred would be insane and can make a lower tier DPS like Ayaka or Risley viable again. Our Fontaine Chef is basically like a Chevrus but for Cryo and Hydro, and with not Cry around the corner, she might not be the last Cryo unit that's gonna get released in the near future. So who is she good for then? Escoffier will support these two elements, so if you want to play freeze, she is of insane value for your account. Navia, Farina, Ayaka, Risley are all gonna benefit a lot from her. However, if you don't really play these elements too much and you focus more on, let's say, Pyro or Electro units, Escoffier is probably not for your account. Theoretically, you could also play her in other team comps as well, but she will lose most of her rest shred abilities this way, and Xylonen, who is on banner right now, will probably be a better pull in that case. When it comes to future characters though, and this is my personal speculative opinion, I expect Escoffier to increase in value. Based on the teased silhouette characters and the new artifact set that buffs cryo damage, I assume that Skirk will be playable very soon, and since the new artifact set looks very much like her, I expect Skirk to be cryo. If you think this through, Escoffier is probably one of the, if not the best support for her, and if you want to pull for Skirk and have enough primos saved up, I'd go for Escoffier as well. But even without that aspect, I think her kit is pretty broken. Next up, let's talk about IFA. IFA is a 4-star Anemo catalyst from the Flower Feather clan who works best as a swirl driver. His normal attacks are Anemo infused just like Sucrose's, so you can swirl every hit with him. In his skill, he enters the Nightsoul Blessing state and hangs onto his Saurian bro, Kakuku, while shooting his gun. If you tap his E, he fires a bullet that deals Anemo damage and heals your party member based on his elemental mastery. If you hold his skill, he will continuously fire bullets. With his elemental burst, IFA will fire a sedative that will explode on impact, dealing AoE Anemo damage, and that sucks enemies towards it. If his burst hits an opponent that is affected by a swirlable element, so Pyro, Hydro, Electro or Cryo, it will also leave a mark on the enemy, which will deal some damage over time. As I said, IFA also works as a healer, as he will continuously restore HP when on field. His healing scales on Elemental Mastery, which makes sense as EM will also increase his swirl damage numbers. Also, IFA's passives basically say that he works best with Auroron, aka in Taser teams. He wants to be used in Electrocharge teams and swirl Hydro and Electro for his optimal performance. Also, if one party member triggers a Nightsoul burst, IFA's EM is gonna be increased. For exploration, he has a nice gimmick with him hanging onto his companion, but it is not as game breaking and not too useful compared to the exploration mechanics of Nutland 5 stars. An Anemo on-field swirler who heals a bit and scales off EM? Does that ring a bell? Yes, he sounds like another Mizuki, but since he can normal attack, he will probably be more satisfying to play. However, while you should not pull for 4 stars in the first place, IFA's kit sounds kinda underwhelming to me and it is not really what I hoped for. Sucrose is a 1.0 character who is probably better in what she does, so I'm not too convinced of him. If you end up getting him and want to build him though, I'd either recommend the Viridescent Bannerer set for more swirl damage and Restred or the 4-piece hero set. However, if you run him with Auroron, 4-piece VV should be better. Also, since he is from Nutland, you could run him as a support for an Anemo DPS like Shao or Wanderer if you don't have their elite teams available. Basically, you give him 4-piece hero set, trigger a swirl reaction with him and give him TTDS as a weapon of choice. This way, he will not do anything himself, but he will grant your Shao/Wanderer 48% attack from TTDS and 40% elemental damage bonus from the hero set. It is niche and not super recommended, but I wanted to mention it all the same. So much about the new units in 5.6, now let's take a look at the rerun characters. Navia will be getting her second rerun, which could mean that her next one will take quite a while. She's a 5-star Geo Claymore DPS who scales off attack and wants to crystallize a lot to buff her damage the most. With Xylonen she got a new very good support and you can also run her with Bennett, Mavuika or Farina. Navia was released in 4.3, so her numbers are still good, but the meta does not wait for her, so she slowly but surely lost in value. However, she has a great design and is very satisfying to play. You use a burst, swap out, crystallize stuff, pick up the shards and use her skill twice for her big umbrella shots. This way, you can deal over 250k on a well-invested build. Her best artifact set, Nighttime Whispers of the Echoing Woods, just got added to the strong box, so this way you can improve her build without spending your resin in a rather inefficient domain. I'd still consider her the strongest Geo DPS right now, but I'd only recommend her if you like her character and design. So, first half is done, let's take a look at the second half of version 5.6. We will be getting reruns of Kinich and Raiden Shogun. Yes, you heard that right as well, Raiden Shogun will be getting her next rerun already. But doesn't Hoyo rerun every Archon only once per patch? Yes, that's what I thought, but I guess they are changing things up. Why? Well, we will also be getting an Inazuma Chronicled Wish in the second half of version 5.6, so I guess they wanted to include the Archon as well. Speaking of, The Chronicle banner will feature Ayaka, Ayato, Yoimiya, Chiori, Yaemiko, Arataki Itto, Kokomi, and Kazuha. So this makes 5.6 the biggest rerun patch ever so far, and I will talk about all these units in a second. Let's start with Kinich first though. Kinich will get his first rerun. He is a very strong DPS who works best in burning teams. His normal attacks are irrelevant, his burst summons Ahau, but his most important talent is his skill, as he will use his grappling hook to hang onto enemies, allowing him to circle around them while dealing dendro damage. During his skill you can use his big shots to deal big numbers, meaning over 200k per shot. In burning teams you will get the most shots per rotation on average, which is why this is the best team core. Also, with Jansan he recently got a new very good support, so he got even better since his initial release in 5.0. For exploration, he can swing across Nutland like Spider-Man, which is comfy and fun, but not quite as useful outside of the Pyro Nation. For his best performance, you want to run him on 4-piece Obsidian Codex on focus on crit rate, crit damage and attack percent substats. Is he worth it for your account though? I'd say he's easily a top 10 DPS, with Emily maybe even top 5, but in the end it depends whether you like his character and playstyle. DPSs keep getting stronger and I doubt that Hoyo will release worse newer damage dealers. Nutland set a new standard when it comes to damage output, so it's hard to dial it back down from now on. And last but not least, we have Raiden Shogun. It is the second rerun of the Electro Archon in the 5.x patches, as she already had her annual rerun in 5.0 alongside Kinich. However, she is back, so let's have a brief look at her value. Raiden used to be my main, but I have to admit that she lost a lot in value since I pulled her back in the day. She is still super versatile and can function as a DPS as well as a sub DPS / energy battery. If you want, you could also run her as a Hyper Bloom trigger, so you have a bunch of options with her. However, Hyper Bloom is not as efficient in Abyss as it used to be because of the HP inflation of enemies. Also, Raiden as an on-field DPS with a 4-piece emblem set is still good, but easily outperformed in terms of damage numbers by both Clarin and Varessa. I still play my Raiden from time to time in overload teams with my C6 Chevrus, and it's still fun, but if I need to clear something as fast as possible, I pick another DPS. I know though that she is still one of the most beloved characters and I totally get that. So far you could expect her to rerun once a year, but with Hoyo changing patterns yet again, this is no longer a guarantee. So if you want to have her on your account, you might want to get her now, because I don't dare to predict her next rerun. So those were the regular banners. Time to have a closer look at the Inazuma Chronicled Wish. The 5 stars at stake are once again Ayaka, Ayato, Yoimiya, Kiori, Yaemiko, Arataki Itto, Kokomi and Kazuha. All of them will be featured in the Chronicled Wish banner as well as their signature weapons. Starting off with Ayato, he is an on-field Hydro DPS who can deal fast normal attacks in his skill. He is good for Hyper Bloom teams and very easy and satisfying to play. However, his damage is not on the same level as the output of a certain other Hydro DPS, so definitely still an option, but honestly a kinda outdated one. Next up we have his sister, Ayaka. I do own Ayaka on my account and she is best in freeze teams. Before Escoffier was announced, I would have said that this reaction is outdated. However, with Escoffier, Ayaka's best team could be up to date again, and despite the fact that most enemies cannot be frozen in Genshin, the combination of her, Farina and Escoffier could make her team a viable option for Spiral Abyss. I am excited, however I would not pull for Ayaka in 2025 for meta, especially since Skirk is coming soon and she is probably going to be the new Cryo Queen. Then we have the leader of the Arataki gang, the one and only Itto. A Geo Claymore DPS that scales off defense and summons his little friend Ushi with a skill. Not a bad unit by any means, but with the release of Navia, he got very strong competition. Once again not the top tier, but a fun and unique character all the same. Moving on to the healer section, let's take a brief look at Kokomi. Her value as a Hydro applicator and very strong healer holds up to this day, even though she does not provide too much more for your party than that. Still, she's a very good defensive unit in the game and still has a role in Freeze, Bloom or Hyper Bloom teams. Though, once more, if you're just looking for healing, there are many options in the game by now, so make sure you make the right decision for your account. Yae Miko is next. She's often referred to as a 5-star version of Fischl, as her kit centers around her off-field electro application from her skill. She definitely has some good teams, especially when paired with Dendro. With the Gold Druid artifact set, you can expect some decent damage numbers from her. Next up, and I was very surprised by that, we have Kiori. Kiori is from Inazuma, but was just released during the Fontaine patch, so she is the newest character who was ever featured on a Chronicled banner. I really like Kiori's design, but apart from that, let's talk about her kit. She does most of her damage from off-field with a doll, and if you run her with another Geo unit who can summon a Geo construct, you will get 2 dolls at the same time. Her best set is Golden Troop as well, and she scales both on defense and attack. She's a pretty good sub DPS, and if you like her character, you could totally go for her. I am tempted, but the problem is that there are too many other units I need to get / save for, so yeah. Another surprise is Kazuha, not because he is new, but because he is still so meta. Still, he is on the Chronicle, and to be fair, he did get some competition with Xylonin and now with Escoffier. He's still of great value though for most accounts, as his grouping abilities and his swirl damage can help you in almost any combat scenario. I got my Kazuha rather early back in the day, and I still use him all the time. He used to be a must pull, but those days are gone. Still, he's a great support, and if you want him, maybe get him now, as who knows when he will rerun again. And lastly, there is Yoimiya. I don't want to talk too much about her kit because I am a bit biased, as she is one of my favorite characters in the game. She's a pyro DPS bow user who deals normal attacks and works best in vape or melt teams. I really like her playstyle, as you don't have to think too much but just keep hitting the attack button. But she is very single target focused and hardly usable in AoE scenarios. Also, her damage output is, let's just say, not the absolute peak pyro damage in the game. But hey, there are more important things in life, right? If you paid close attention, you realize that there are no standard banner 5 stars on the list, which means even if you lose your 50-50, you will get another limited 5 star. Regarding the Weapon Chronicle banner, there are some very decent 5-star statistics on there, but it is still a weapon banner and you should not get tricked by the lineup, because in the end you will probably only get one of the fancy weapons. So those were all the characters for version 5.6. The Chronicle banner is definitely the best lineup so far, but just as the last times, only pull on it if you really like and want a character. I know the odds of losing to another limited 5 star can be tempting, but it does not change the unit you're gonna get. I will not rate the entire Chronicle lineup, but in terms of meta, Kazuha and Kiori are probably your best bets. So those were all the units I wanted to talk about, which means it is now time for my personal F2P pull priority list. In the first spot we have Escoffier. The numbers of her kit simply sound too good, especially with other potential cryo units around the corner. I expect her to be one of the best supports for Skirk, so Escoffier is my top priority. In the second spot I'd put Kinich. He's fun and satisfying to play and hits very hard, especially with his elite team. Also, he's fun for exploring, and if you like his character, you won't regret him. In the third spot, and this is a very close call, it's Raiden. Maybe I'm a bit biased, but because of her versatility and support capabilities, she is in my opinion slightly more valuable for the average F2P account than Navia, who is in the fourth spot. She is still a very good DPS, but the Natlan units are simply stronger, and I expect the same from the upcoming damage dealers. However, she is fun to play and still strong, so if you like her, go for it. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. Who are you gonna go for in 5.6? Let me know in the comments down below. Personally, I will go for Escoffier, as she sounds very good for Navia and Ayaka and probably Skirk, so I'll try my luck. Also, if you followed this channel for a while, you already know I will finally be getting my Yoimiya. I've been saving 180 pulls for her for over a year by now. So yeah, hopefully she will come home early and we won't lose to another random 5-star. I hope this video helped you in making your decision. If so, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel as it really helps me out. Anyway, thanks again for watching, good luck on your pulls, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!